Good morning, class. I wanted to give you just an introduction to Module 2, the independent and the dependent case study, to help make sure that you get started well with that. In front of you is your data set for Module 2, and it's organized into two different areas. In the first three columns, you can see that this says independent t-test, which means that we're going to be using excuse me, this grouping variable and this mean heart rate for the independent t-test. And your demonstration videos within Module 2 do an excellent job at introducing you to the how to perform both different types of tests. So for the independent t-test, what you can see is that there's a grouping variable. And so when you're going to perform an independent t-test, SPSS needs a between groups variable organized in a single column. And so the dependent variable in this test for this case study is mean heart rate. Keep that in mind, mean heart rate in beats per minute. And doing kind of a quick overview, it looks like we have 20 different subjects. Every subject or every participant in this research study has their own row of data. Okay, so you might as well give subject number 20 a name. You know, this might be Bob, and number 19 might be, Jane, and number 18 might be, somebody else, and so forth. So these are 20 different people, and they are organized into two groups. So your grouping variable here, and from your case study, these are subjects that are exercising under two different conditions or two different treatments, either a hot environment or a cold environment. And there's no further information given on how hot or how cold other than, one is hot, the other's cold. And it appears that there are 10 individuals in the hot group and 10 different individuals in the cold group. So just keep that straight in your mind. You got a total of 20 people, two groups of 10, two different things. And so you can see that this little button up here helps you, you can toggle between the label and the number. SPSS likes to have things grouped into numbers. This is what would be considered a categorical variable, right? A grouping variable is a category. And so it's mutually exclusive. The number really doesn't mean anything. You could have any different type of number here, but as long as the number is the same for all 10 of these people, then that would have them be in the hot group. And so that just toggles on and off so you can kind of see what that is. So everybody who is given the group label of 2 exercise under the cold conditions, right? So the dependent variable, or the thing that was measured here, is mean heart rate. And that appears to be in beats per minute, here for all 20 of these individuals. And you can kind of see how that varies, from 142 to 108, 132, 143. And so the null hypothesis, or the baseline hypothesis for this independent t-test, is that mean heart rate in the group that exercised under the hot condition is the same as the mean heart rate in the folks that exercised under the cold conditions. And so that's your null hypothesis. That's the test that you will compare. Is P less than 0.05 or not? Because if P is greater than 0.05, you can reasonably say that yes, the mean heart rate in exercising under hot is similar to or the same as that exercising in the cold. However, if P is less than 0.05, then you can reasonably conclude with a good degree of confidence that the mean heart rate are different. That's the alternative hypothesis. So you'll be doing a independent t-test for case study number 2, and then you're going to move over here on these next 3 columns, and that's the dependent t-test. And so you can see here, unlike the independent t-test, there is no grouping variable over here. Okay, so when you're doing descriptives on the independent t-test, you do not need to include the grouping variable, as you go in and you go frequency, descriptive, or explore, you're not going to move independent, over into that dependent list. You're going to put it under the factor, the grouping variable. You're not going to put that. You're not going to measure that. That's just going to give you a mean of 1.5 plus or minus 0.5. So that you don't get statistics on that, but you are going to get descriptive statistics on mean heart rate. So for your independent t-test, um, that's probably how your setup ought to look there. Okay, so back to this. The second part of your case study is going to be, the dependent t-test. Now this is different. Okay, dependent t-test. Now you have one group of people, 10 people, who are their body weight was measured before something. Okay, pre-body weight. It looks like that is in kilograms. Okay, so pre-body weight in kilograms. Open that up just a little bit so you can get the full label there. Okay, so their body weight, they were weighed in, they all have one value in kilograms, and then they did something. They exercised, or they were exposed to something, or they did something, and then later on, at a later point in time, whether it's an hour later, a month later, a year later, they were reweighed. So this guy here in cell 1 is the same guy as in cell 2, just as at a later date. And so, if Jack is measured at 76.5 before he does something, and then later on, 76.4, well, looks like Jack's body weight, went down slightly. Okay. Similarly for this individual here, went down slightly. So the dependent t-test analyzes the mean difference between between the mean of the pre values and the mean of the post values. So make sure that you're kind of keeping that similar. So as you go into analyze descriptive statistics, where'd that go? Descriptives, come on, explore. Okay, you're going to have when you get your descriptives for this, that's how your setup is going to look, because those are two different variables, two different dependent variables, both on the same scale, both in kilograms. The type of data, I'll let you look that up. What type of data, is kilograms? Does it ever choose zero value? Is it a categorical data? Is it scale data or continuous, right? Or is it nominal data? You got to answer that for question number 1. But this is how you would set that up in order to get your descriptive statistics. Okay, but that's what your initial column setup is going to look like, where your variables are, and then you got to take a different approach for the independent t-test, which would include your grouping variable here, your dependent variable here, and then for your dependent t-test, both your two dependent variables up in the dependent list and no factors, because the factor is already defined by the two different columns. Okay, looking forward to your work. Make sure you keep me posted if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to answer those for you. Okay.